Okay, real question for you. When was the last time you threw out a chunk of hard Parmesan, tipped a pot of overcooked pasta down the drain, or watched your homemade tomato sauce turn bitter and thin after an hour of effort? If any of those feel painfully familiar, you are about to feel genuinely embarrassed by how simple the solutions actually are. Because everything you needed to know has been sitting in the kitchens of Italian grandmothers for generations. Today we are counting down 35 of the most oddly useful food hacks that nonnas across Italy have relied on for decades, the kind of practical kitchen wisdom that never made it into a cookbook, but absolutely should have. Let us get into it. Number 35. Save your pasta water like it is liquid gold. Before you drain your pasta, scoop out at least 2 full ladles of that starchy, salty cooking water and set it aside in a mug or bowl. Nonnas have done this forever, long before food bloggers made it trendy. The reason it works is pure science. As pasta cooks, it releases starch into the water, and that starch acts as a natural emulsifier. When you add a splash of pasta water to your sauce, it binds the fat and liquid together, creating a glossy, restaurant-quality coating that clings to every strand of pasta instead of pooling at the bottom of the bowl. Number 34. Rub your salad bowl with a cut clove of raw garlic before adding anything else. This is one of those gestures that seems too small to matter until you taste the difference. You do not mince it. You do not add it directly to the salad. You cut it in half and drag the exposed flesh firmly around the inside surface of the wooden bowl. The garlic leaves behind just enough of its essential oils to perfume the entire salad without overwhelming it. Every bite carries a whisper of garlic that you cannot quite place but absolutely cannot ignore. Number 33. Add a whole carrot or a piece of onion to your tomato sauce while it simmers. Nonnas across southern Italy have been doing this for generations, and the reason is beautifully practical. Tomatoes are naturally acidic, and that acidity can make a sauce taste harsh or thin. A whole carrot or halved onion absorbs some of that excess acid as the sauce cooks, naturally sweetening and mellowing the flavor without adding any sugar. You pull it out before serving, and nobody ever knows it was there. Number 32. Never rinse your pasta after cooking. This one causes arguments, but the nonna is always right. Rinsing pasta washes away the surface starch that allows sauce to grab onto it. Cold water also drops the temperature of your pasta, which means your sauce will not warm through properly when you toss them together. Drain it, toss it immediately with your sauce in the still warm pot, and let the residual heat and starch do their job. Number 31. Freeze your fresh basil and olive oil in ice cube trays. When summer basil is at its peak, nonnas do not let a single leaf go to waste. They blend the basil leaves with good quality olive oil until smooth. Pour the mixture into ice cube trays and freeze them solid before transferring to a bag. Each cube is a ready-made flavor bomb you can drop directly into soups, sauces, or sautéed vegetables all winter long. The olive oil protects the basil from oxidizing, which is why it stays brilliantly green instead of turning that sad, dark gray color you get when you freeze basil in water. Number 30. Rest your meatballs in the sauce for at least 20 minutes before serving. You can pan fry or bake your meatballs first, but the final step is always a gentle simmer in the tomato sauce. This is not optional in a nonna's kitchen. As the meatballs rest and gently cook in the sauce, they absorb the surrounding flavor and release some of their fat into the sauce, making both the meatballs and the sauce richer and more deeply integrated. A meatball served straight from the pan and a meatball that is rested in sauce are completely different creatures. Number 29. Use stale bread to thicken soups and stews instead of cream or flour. This is pure cucina povera, the Italian tradition of poor cooking that somehow produces the most deeply satisfying food imaginable. When a soup or ribollita needs body, nonnas tear in day-old or 2-day-old bread and let it dissolve. The bread breaks down slowly, releasing its starches and giving the soup a dense, velvety texture that feels luxurious, even though it costs almost nothing. This is exactly why Tuscan ribollita tastes the way it does, Number 28. Season your pasta water until it tastes like the sea. Not slightly salty, not a pinch of salt, aggressively salty. Nonnas use far more salt in pasta water than most people feel comfortable with, and for a very good reason. Pasta is seasoned from the inside out while it cooks. If the water is not properly salted, no amount of sauce on the outside will compensate. The pasta itself will taste flat, and the sauce will taste like it is working too hard. Use a tablespoon of coarse salt per liter of water as a starting point. Number 27. Let your garlic warm up in cold olive oil before turning on the heat. Do not drop garlic into hot oil. Instead, place sliced or minced garlic in the pan, add the olive oil, and then turn the heat to medium-low. As the oil slowly warms up, the garlic infuses the oil gradually without burning, and burned garlic is bitter and ruins everything around it. This slow start method gives you sweet, golden, perfectly fragrant garlic every single time, which is the flavor foundation of more Italian dishes than you can count. Number 26. Add a small piece of Parmigiano Reggiano rind to any soup or broth. Do not ever throw those rinds away. Nonnas collect them in a bag in the freezer and treat them like culinary currency. When dropped into a simmering minestrone, bean soup, or any broth-based dish, the rind slowly releases savory, umami-packed flavor into the liquid over the course of the cook. It will not fully dissolve, so you fish it out at the end, but the depth of flavor it adds is absolutely disproportionate to what it costs you. Number 25. Peel tomatoes quickly by scoring and blanching them. Make a small shallow X cut at the base of each tomato with a sharp knife. Drop them into boiling water for about 30 to 60 seconds, then transfer immediately to a bowl of ice water. The skin will peel back almost by itself. Nonnas use this method when making fresh tomato sauce because the texture of peeled tomatoes is silkier and the sauce cooks more evenly without patches of tough skin breaking the consistency. Number 24. Toast your bread directly over the gas flame for real bruschetta, not in a toaster, not under a broiler. Nonnas hold the bread directly over the open flame on the stove top, turning it with tongs until it has genuine charm on a blistered crust. The direct heat creates a caramelized, slightly smoky exterior that no toaster can replicate. Then you immediately rub a cut clove of raw garlic across the hot surface, drizzle with your best olive oil, and the result has absolutely nothing in common with what most people call bruschetta. Number 23. Massage your greens with a pinch of salt before dressing them. When making a salad with tougher greens like kale or bitter chicory, nonnas, massage the leaves firmly with a small amount of salt for a full minute or two before adding any dressing. The salt begins to break down the tough cell walls of the leaves, making them softer, more tender, and more receptive to absorbing the dressing. It also takes the edge off the bitterness, making the greens genuinely pleasant to eat rather than something you chew out of obligation. Number 22. Use a wooden spoon handle to check if oil is ready for frying. Before dropping food into hot oil, dip the handle of a wooden spoon into the oil. If small, steady bubbles form around the wood immediately, the oil is at the right temperature for frying. If nothing happens, it is too cold. If the bubbles are violent and aggressive, it is too hot. Nonnas use this trick because they never owned a thermometer and never needed one. The visual cue is completely reliable. Number 21. Add a bay leaf to every pot of dried beans or legumes. When cooking dried beans from scratch, nonnas always drop in 1 or 2 dried bay leaves. Bay leaves contain compounds that help neutralize some of the gas-producing oligosaccharides in beans, which means the beans are both more digestible and more flavorful. The leaf also adds a subtle, almost herbal earthiness to the beans themselves. You remove it before serving, but the work it did while cooking stays behind. Number 20. Cook your onions low and slow until they are deeply golden before adding anything else. Patience is the most important ingredient in an Italian grandma's kitchen, and nowhere is this more obvious than with sofrito. Nonnas cook diced onions in olive oil over the lowest possible heat for 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes more, until they are completely soft, translucent, and deeply golden. This slow cooking converts the starches and sulfur compounds in the onion into natural sugars, creating a sweet, rich base that adds complexity to anything built on top of it. Number 19. Squeeze a slice of lemon into your pasta e fagioli at the table. This sounds wrong until you try it. A small squeeze of fresh lemon juice added at the very end of a bowl of pasta e fagioli, or any heavy, rich bean-based soup, acts like a brightness switch. The acid cuts through the density of the dish and makes all the other flavors pop forward simultaneously. Nonnas do not add it during cooking, because heat destroys the fresh citrus volatiles. The squeeze happens at the bowl, right before the first spoonful. Number 18. Roll citrus fruit firmly on the counter before squeezing. Before cutting a lemon or orange, press down firmly and roll it back and forth on the counter for 15 to 20 seconds. This breaks down the internal membranes of the fruit and releases significantly more juice with less effort. Nonna's figured this out by feel, not by reading anything. A room temperature lemon rolled on the counter will give you almost double the juice of a cold, unrolled one straight from the refrigerator. Number 17. Never cover pasta with a lid while it is cooking. Some people cover pasta to help the water return to a boil faster, but then forget to uncover it and end up with a sticky, gummy mess. Nonnas cook pasta completely uncovered in aggressively boiling water and stir it regularly. The rolling boil keeps the pasta moving so it cooks evenly on all sides and does not clump, and stirring in the first 2 minutes prevents the strands or shapes from sticking to each other as the surface starch gelatinizes. Number 16. Dry your mushrooms on a cloth before cooking. Never rinse them. Mushrooms are like tiny sponges, and if you rinse them under water, they absorb that water and then steam in the pan instead of searing properly. Nonnas wipe mushrooms clean with a damp cloth or dry kitchen towel. Then make sure they are completely dry before they go into a very hot, dry pan. The high heat and absence of extra moisture means the mushrooms caramelize beautifully, developing deep, meaty roasted flavor instead of going rubbery and sad. Number 15. Store tomatoes stem side down at room temperature, never in the refrigerator. Cold destroys the texture and flavor of fresh tomatoes. The enzymes responsible for developing tomato flavor are deactivated below a certain temperature, and once that happens, they do not come back even when the tomato warms up again. Nonnas keep tomatoes on the counter, stem side down to prevent air from entering through the base and slowing ripening unevenly. This keeps them firm, flavorful, and perfectly ripe for days longer than refrigerating them would. Number 14. Add a splash of whole milk to your scrambled eggs or frittata mixture. Before pouring eggs into the pan for a frittata, Nonnas whisk in a small amount of whole milk, not cream, not water, just a small splash of milk. The milk proteins and fat interfere with the egg proteins binding too tightly, which means the finished frittata is significantly more tender and custardy in the center rather than rubbery and tight. It is a small change with a texture result you can feel immediately on the fork. Number 13. Boil potatoes starting in cold water, not boiling water. When you drop potatoes into already boiling water, the outside cooks and becomes soft before the center has had a chance to warm through. This leads to unevenly cooked potatoes with mushy edges and hard centers. Nonnas start potatoes in cold salted water and bring everything up to temperature together. The potato cooks through evenly from edge to center, resulting in potatoes that are perfectly soft all the way through without falling apart. Number 12. Finish pasta in the pan with the sauce, not the plate. After draining the pasta with about a minute of cooking time still remaining, transfer it directly into the pan where the sauce is waiting over medium heat. Let the pasta finish cooking in the sauce, tossing constantly and adding small splashes of reserved pasta water as needed. This final minute of cooking in the sauce allows the pasta to fully absorb the flavors around it and creates that unified, cohesive dish where the sauce feels like it belongs to the pasta rather than sitting on top of it. Number 11. Use the back of a spoon to crush canned tomatoes, never a blender. When making a simple tomato sauce with canned whole tomatoes, Nonnas crush them directly in the pan using the back of a wooden spoon, pressing and breaking them apart as they cook. A blender incorporates too much air, which can make the sauce foam and taste slightly bitter. Hand crushing keeps the texture rustic and uneven, which means the sauce has pockets of concentrated tomato flavor rather than a uniformly smooth consistency that tastes flat and processed. Number 10. Salt your eggplant and let it rest for 30 minutes before cooking. Cut eggplant into your desired shape. Place it in a colander. Sprinkle generously with salt and let it sit for at least 30 minutes. The salt draws out a significant amount of bitter liquid through osmosis. After resting, press the eggplant firmly with a clean cloth to remove as much liquid as possible. The result is an eggplant that cooks faster, absorbs far less oil, and has a much more concentrated, mealy flavor without the bitterness that makes some people claim they dislike eggplant. Number 9. Keep a jar of homemade sofrito in the refrigerator for instant flavor. Nonnas often cook a large batch of finely diced onion, carrot, and celery in olive oil until deeply softened and golden, then store it in a sealed jar in the refrigerator for up to a week. A spoonful of this pre-cooked sofrito dropped into a pan gives you an immediate, deeply flavored base for any soup, sauce, or braise without the 20 minutes of patient cooking required to build it from scratch each time. This is how Nonnas seem to make food appear effortlessly and quickly. Number 8. Add a chunk of bread to the oil when deep frying to monitor temperature. Along with the wooden spoon method, some Nonnas drop a small cube of stale bread into heating oil to judge the temperature before frying. If the bread cube sizzles, rises to the surface, and turns golden in about 60 seconds, the oil is at the ideal frying temperature of around 170 to 180 degrees Celsius. Too fast means the oil is too hot. Too slow means it needs more time. The bread tells you everything you need to know without a single piece of equipment. Number 7. Make your own breadcrumbs from stale bread and toast them in olive oil. Nothing in a Nonna's kitchen goes stale and into the bin. Stale bread is blended or grated into coarse crumbs, then toasted in a pan with olive oil, a pinch of salt, and sometimes a clove of garlic. These toasted crumbs, called pangrattato, are used as a topping for pasta, vegetables, soups, and salads. They add texture, crunch, and a toasted, savory flavor the fresh store-bought breadcrumbs simply cannot match, and they cost almost nothing to make. Number 6. Warm your pasta bowls before serving. This sounds like unnecessary effort until you eat pasta from a cold bowl and realize the dish has gone lukewarm by the third bite. Nonnas pour boiling water into the serving bowls, let them sit for a minute, then pour the water out and dry them before adding the pasta. The warm bowl maintains the temperature of the dish from the first bite to the last, which matters because pasta continues to absorb sauce as it sits, and a warm environment keeps everything at the right consistency longer. Number 5. Deglaze your pan with wine immediately after browning meat. After searing meat in a pan, there is a layer of caramelized, intensely flavorful brown bits stuck to the bottom called fond. Nonnas pour wine directly into the hot pan and immediately begin scraping the bottom with a wooden spoon. The liquid dissolves and lifts every bit of that fond, incorporating it back into the sauce. This single step adds more depth of flavor to a braise or raggi than almost anything else you can do, and the alcohol in the wine evaporates during cooking, leaving only the flavor behind. Number 4. Let your dough rest after kneading, covered with a damp cloth, not plastic. Whether making pasta dough, pizza dough, or bread, Nonnas rest the dough covered with a slightly damp kitchen cloth rather than plastic wrap. The cloth allows a small amount of airflow while preventing the surface from drying out completely. This creates just the right humidity around the dough for the gluten to relax properly, making it significantly easier to roll out without the dough snapping back. Plastic wrap traps too much moisture and can make the surface of the dough slightly tacky and difficult to work with. Number 3. Taste and adjust seasoning at every stage of cooking, not just at the end. Nonnas taste their food constantly throughout the entire cooking process, not as a final check, but as an ongoing conversation with what is in the pot. They add salt, acid, or fat in small amounts at multiple stages, because seasoning built in layers throughout cooking creates a depth that cannot be achieved by dumping everything in at the end. Each ingredient added at a different temperature and time responds differently, and the cumulative effect of tasting and adjusting at every stage is a finished dish that tastes profoundly more complex than the individual ingredients suggest it should. Number 2. Rest your meat after cooking before cutting it every single time. After roasting a chicken, grilling a steak, or braising any piece of meat, Nonnas insist on resting it untouched for a period of time before the knife comes near it. The reason is well-documented science that Nonnas understood by instinct long before food science confirmed it. Heat drives the moisture in meat toward the center during cooking. Resting allows that moisture to redistribute evenly throughout the flesh. Cut into meat too soon, and all those juices run onto the board. Rest it properly, and those juices stay in the meat where they belong, making every bite noticeably more succulent. And now, the number one hack that every Italian grandmother swears by, the one that ties everything else together. The single most foundational piece of kitchen wisdom passed from Nonna to Nonna across the whole of Italy. Number 1, and the most important. Always cook with love, and always use more olive oil than you think is necessary. This is not a metaphor, though the love part genuinely matters in the sense that engaged, attentive cooking produces better results than distracted, rushed cooking. The olive oil part is entirely literal. Nonnas use olive oil in quantities that would make most modern cooks genuinely nervous. They use it as a cooking fat, a finishing drizzle, a sauce ingredient, a preserving liquid, and a flavor carrier for aromatics. Good extra virgin olive oil is anti-inflammatory, rich in polyphenols, and carries fat-soluble flavors from ingredients like garlic, herbs, and chili into the dish in a way that no other fat does as elegantly. The Nonna is not being reckless with the olive oil bottle. She is doing exactly what the science and centuries of delicious evidence tell her to do. So the next time you're standing at your stove wondering why something isn't coming together the way you imagined it should, ask yourself what a Nonna would do, because the answer is probably already somewhere